Hello everyone! So last week I showed you the first half of how I made my turtle puppet, and today's video is going to be the rest of that process. So if you missed it, you can go check out part 1 on my channel or click the link in the description. I will reference it a few times, but you don't have to watch the video to figure out what's going on. It's not like there's going to be a quiz or anything at the end. I am making a stop motion puppet for a short film, and I essentially wanted a wire armature body that I could pose and manipulate easily. I have already made the wire armature and the polymer clay parts, and now what I'm doing here is drawing my pattern and cutting out the fabric that will be the neck, legs, and tail of my turtle. I had initially planned on making the whole turtle body and hand sewing everything, but because I made the first mistake of using too heavy a gauge of wire for the armature, I was not able to get the armature back out of the shell once I had baked the polymer clay. So I had to improvise and just cut out what I thought I needed. I cut 2 parts, one for the neck and front legs, and the other for the tail and back legs. I had to modify this later on since I cut some things too long, but if I had taken some extra time to properly measure instead of eyeballing it, this step would have worked and there would have been a lot less gluing involved later on. I used flexible craft glue to adhere the neck piece to the head, and at this point you're probably thinking that I don't know what I'm doing because I put it on completely backwards. But there was method to my madness. I wanted a seam between the head and the neck, and if you look at pictures of real-life turtles, there is a little wrinkle there. So I decided to glue it facing towards the front with the wrong side of the fabric out, so that when I flipped it over, it would make a nice little seam. I wanted him to have a little meat on his bones, but I couldn't just stuff him like a plushie. So I took the batting and wound it around the wire to give him some bulk while trying to keep him from looking like a bodybuilder. You don't need to glue the batting in place, but if you want to control any stray fibers, you could give it a once-over with watered-down craft glue. Once all my padding was added, I glued the fabric to the feet like I did for the head, and just folded it over to make neat seams. I didn't put any padding in the neck because the coil of wire gave it shape and I wanted to still be able to extend and retract it. This ended up looking just fine since turtles' necks are generally rather skinny anyways. Now that he had the proper bulk to him, I started gluing up the seams. Like I said, the hand sewing went out the window once I realized that he wasn't coming back out of his shell, so I had to figure out another way to close all the seams. I initially tried the craft glue that held the fabric to the polymer clay, but it took too long to dry and was way too fond of my fingers and not fond enough of the fabric, so everything stuck to me instead of the turtle. I ended up resorting to my hot glue gun, and at first I was not looking forward to all the little glue strings and lumps the glue left. But in the end this worked really well for the fabric, and I was able to cover most of the strings and lumps with the paint job. I made sure all my seams were on the underside of the turtle and glued them all closed, trying to overlap the fabric to make it as smooth as possible. Then I used a popsicle stick and the handle of a paintbrush to push the fabric inside the shell where I glued it in place. Now, speaking of paint job, I wanted this guy to look like a little yellow-bellied slider, so I went with a medium green for the shell, a muddier green for the body, and an orangey yellow for the belly. I simplified the colors and patterns so they aren't 100% accurate to the real thing, but I kept the little stripes on his legs and the spiral patterns on his shell. The light green stripes are my favorite part. He looks like he's wearing a little pinstripe suit. Alright, so now that he's all done, what are my final thoughts, and if I do this again, what will I change? So first off, I should have used a lighter gauge wire. This ended up throwing off all of my plans and it affected the end result. Pretty much all of my problems were caused by this mistake. He ended up being so stiff that it's hard to pose him, and the more I struggle to move his limbs, the more likely I am to crack the polymer clay. And actually, I did break off one of his toes in the process of posing him, so I'm going to have to go back and fix that. I could have used the clay pieces to make a mold for resin casting so that he would have been a little sturdier, but this would not have been necessary if the wire wasn't so stiff. Despite all of the problems that were caused by the wire, I was really happy with how he looks. The paint job really brought him to life, and I am excited to make a little stop motion short film with him. So now on to updates for my stop motion project this month. I am really loving all this stop motion, and if you've been following me on Facebook or Instagram, you will have seen the little dragon short films I've been working on. But since I've gotten a little carried away with all my different stop motions, I haven't been focusing so much on the one that this little guy will be in, so it may be released next month rather than the end of this month. But not to worry, you will get an animation reel next Tuesday, and who knows, I might be able to finish the short film by then. I'm certainly going to try. So that is it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this every week. Check out my Facebook and Instagram to see my daily art posts. The links are in the description. Hope you have a great day. Bye.